somehow with guns, nobody wants to believe that they're hurting anybody, that they're costing us anything.
Passionate debate Wednesday before Kentucky senators voted to what supporters say makes Kentucky a Second Amendment sanctuary state, an attempt to block any future federal bans on firearms.
We see across the world nations that have restricted firearms from their citizens are essentially slaves to their government. They do not have a way to defend themselves from tyrannical overreach, and that was one of the reasons the Second Amendment was put into our Constitution.
Opponents say it is a slippery slope and puts police in a spot where they themselves are criminals by not enforcing federal laws.
The oath of office that they take states that I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth. That is an impossible situation where they could be charged for supporting the Constitution of the United States.
Freshman Senator Lindsey Tishner presented the bill on the floor and said this comes down to blocking potential bans on legal ownership.
I believe firmly the people of Kentucky want their Second Amendment rights upheld, and I believe this bill should pass.
The legislation did pass despite 3 Republicans voting no. In Frankfort, Chad Hedrick, WK.
Now here's the question now with what's happening tomorrow. The Senate will be back in session at 9 a.m. They're talking about how they have several bills to get through as this is really down to the wire, getting in closer to the veto period. We will likely potentially see House Bill 470 back up for discussion. It will need a vote to be taken off the clerk's desk and go back to the floor for discussion. Senate President Robert Stivers saying tonight essentially doesn't know even if it has the votes to get through. So definitely going to be an intense and interesting day here at the Capitol tomorrow. Live in Frankfort, Chad Hedrick, WKYT.